say which, but he said, you know, you can do whatever you want. It's gloving. Just know when you conjure, it makes it really hard for us to know what's going on. I'm like,
Oh
so
God,
you're
you guys,
sauced.
you guys are gonna hate me.
But
I just
you
realized
know what I mean?
it wasn't recording.
Oh,
I
damn.
literally looked over
It's
and it's
okay.
just saying start recording. I'm like, it's not recording. Click. So now we are
It's
recording.
okay.
Fucking idiot.
Alrighty, hello everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of Gloving Table Talks, where I am your host, A Glover, and with me are other Glovers.
Hello.
And today for this episode, I know I didn't think we were actually going to sneak one in, but we managed to sneak one in and get this done. I know at the time of this recording was it's literally
It is July 30th.
2022, and so we are looking at basically 2 weeks from now at the time of this recording. We got major competition coming up called G3, which to our viewers, if you don't know, G3 is Global Gloving Gauntlet. God, I cannot these.
That is what it is.
That's what it is. That's what it's called. I can't say these words together because it is like a tongue twister to me.
Gauntlet, gloving, global.
See,
Blah,
you're
blah, 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 blah.
glue, 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 glue.
The G3 of gloving.
Gloving 2, electric blue.
Or I should say the E3 of gloving.
I also referred to it as the E3 of gloving.
You know
That's
what?
a
That
good
actually
selling
makes a
point.
lot of sense. I actually take that as a good selling point.
I don't think Teddy liked it that much, but I don't know. I never talked to him.
Whenever I told him, he was like, you know what? Because he preferred that over the connection being to something like KFC. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
He's like, you know what? That's a good sign.
I mean, G3, E3, it's literally like right
Yeah,
there.
that's
And
good.
They're literally handing it to you.
We're being spoon fed this right now.
Yeah.
So pretty much our entire segment is going to be about not only talking about like prepping for an event like a live competition, but we're also going to talk about an online competition because not only is G3 coming around the corner, but we just saw the signups for the newest online competition hosted by Inky Boys called Squid Games, and we were just talking about it before I realized that we weren't recording. How quickly the signups filled up.
Yep, the signups closed yesterday of the time of this recording. So like the round one bracket is going to be posted around the same time as this video coming out. So be on the lookout, competitors and spectators.
Oh yeah. So we're definitely going to be talking anecdotally about our experiences for these different kinds of competitions and kind of giving you guys words of admonishment to prep yourselves if you're going to be going either to a live competition or even just a festival or doing online competitions. And it's just because we got a lot of it going on right now, and it's one of the things that a lot of people like to talk about. And I don't think people really realize what it is that people like to talk about when it comes to competitions, at least in my perspective. Because to me, the thing that I see people talk the most about is just other types of glovers and what they see out there and what's really cool to see from these glovers, rather than this person's better and this person's not kind of crap, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I know for you and me, Dustin, we did Flowtron on different teams, and then Mckinnley did the not online. He did the live comp in
Texas
in
Domad.
Texas called Domads.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep, I went to Domads. It was really awesome. Also, just to really trip back for a quick sec, back to the joke thing. How fast that Inky Boy thing, how fast that spot filled up. All those spots were filled up between like the first 4 hours.
Yeah, it was
like a good like 20, at least 20 people were already signed up.
Yes.
Halfway
It was pretty gnarly. It got to 44 people within 2.5 days, 2 days, 3 days, something like that. I think we dropped the list on the sign up sheet on Tuesday, and he had to close it yesterday.
And that tells you something about how if you let enough people know in a good enough time, and you've also built enough of a consistent reputation, that's what can happen.
Engagement.
For Domas, for example, it was great. I had a great time. But it was originally supposed to have 16 people. It only ended up being about 10. I think it was even. I think it might have even been an 8. So I'm trying to think about the names. It was me, Starstream TuT. Then you had TuT. You had Rafiki. You had Scully. You had a dude named Candid. You had Stony. You had Mazu, and then we had Preston. And I think it was 10 people. We had 2 others. It was my friend Michael. I'm blanking what, because he didn't really have a clever name. He only recently picked it. I think it was Squints. And then he went up against one of the DJs who also doesn't really have a clever name. He just went off. But he would, again, this really showed you Flow's capable from anyone as long as you're willing to try. And they went into a competition setting in person. I was like, wow, good on y'all. They were fucking it up. But the whole competition went really well. It was judged by Travis, Alec, and Folly. That was the first round of people. And then after this, then we went to the second round. Alec had to dip. So who they thought was the best judge out of who lost in the first round, they picked Scully. He's who I went up against. And to be honest, dude, I had to drop everything. Like, I was like, all right, I can't hold back from the start.
Go hard.
Because I respect that, man. I was like, oh hell no, I gotta go hard.
Yeah.
And I went hard for everyone, to be honest. I felt like that's what really, gave me a perspective in person of what all it really takes. Because I've done a few, and each one I've gathered more information. This one I finally felt like I really had it together. It really felt like a street battle by the end of it. So really? For round 1, I went Conjuring. Then I went up against a friend, Michael. That's when I did a lot of tutting. Then I went up against, I think it was Tap. I think. Yeah.
Wait, so did you end up winning?
Yes. Yeah, I won everything. I'm trying to remember what all I did. I'm pretty sure I just, by the end of it, I basically felt like I pulled everything out. Oh, it was Connor, I think.
Gleason?
No, it was Stony. That's what I went up against. I'm tripping.
Okay.
Yeah, because that felt like an ice versus fire battle.
Right.
Yeah, no, because he literally had a really blue set. He went first. He killed it with his liquid, man. Super saucy, was on point. Everyone was like, you can tell the crowd was really engaged. And I was like, oh crap, I gotta come up with something. So I kept up with my, it's a really low yellow and warm white set. But then when I move fast, it has that fire spark.
Right, so it's very much like a rebuttal type of thing.
Yeah. And
right.
The way the music hit, it was all live music. I can't wait to see it. But what they were yelling in the crowd were, dude, you look like you were born for this. I swear. Someone was like, you look like you were born for that song.
Nice.
I did some under the leg stuff and like
bro.
Yeah, dude, it was crazy. I went ham. Then the next round again, because I felt like I had to pull out. All right, I gotta up it. Shit. All right, what else? I've done this before. Last round. By the end of my trade with Tap, also his trade was freaking crazy. I felt like he was just mimicking and making fun of me and taunting me the whole time. It was like a street battle, you know. He was doing everything. He was doing all the. I was like, bro,
stop it.
And then you could tell he was all like, and he would do the thing, and he'd be like, no, and then do like his own thing. It's like, oh,
yeah.
It was. That's a captain of TLNT for a reason.
Kind Kind of reminds me.
By the end of my trade, I was literally upside down.
Bro,
In his
my man
face.
was upside down.
Yeah, and then I got up and like, yeah, flail.
It kind of
Can't
reminds
wait
me
to show
of the boss battles that you would see from Vex and in the Florida boss videos that they
That's
would
what it
post.
felt like.
It
Definitely a lot of
gives me that
inspiration
vibe.
from that. Because that felt like the full body, everything, and it felt real nice. Because after I won, we were just all chilling. Everything was all nice. We just went back to the old flow. Me and Tap gave Rafiki a double. That was just a great way to end the night. All right there, freaking.
So given that I pretty much started gloving like during COVID, right? So only thing that I ever really had access to was online stuff, and I never participated in anything that was in person. So like I assume there's a lot of different elements that go into it, right? Like the vibe alone could carry you, but also the vibe could instill a lot of anxiety, right? Depending on like your mental tenacity.
So the way I look at it is, for a lot of the newer glovers, if they have no experience in any form of competition, I think they're going to be in a huge awakening for the test of endurance they're going to be putting themselves through, especially if they keep progressing through the rounds. Like for me, like my competition experience is like Magic the Gathering, so Grand Prix. Like, oh yeah, you're going to spend like all day spending like what 9 rounds or something like that in a day, and then you're like, all right, now let's go to day 2 where you spend like another 9 rounds. So
I don't want to talk about it. I've played so much competitive Magic, bro. I don't want it.
So that's where my idea of live competition comes from, right? So, and I've done a live competition of gloving before in the early days. So I can certainly say that there is a level of endurance that you have to have.
Absolutely, dude. The thing with from what I recall with Magic competitions, right? Like, because Richmond, like I'm from Richmond, right? So a lot of
it's a very strong Magic community.
Quite a few Grand Prix, and as well as the I want to say like one of the bigger competitions happened in Richmond as well. I can't remember what it was called, but
was
like
it part of the SCG circuit? I think.
No, it was like the one where all the pros go to. The SCG circuit is like more so small. It's like smaller. It's like a step below.
Oh,
but this,
I think that might have been a Pro Tour that happened recently.
Yeah, Pro Tour happened in Richmond. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But like going to any of these events, right? Like the differences with gloving competitions, right? Like I couldn't imagine you going more than 5 rounds, maybe 6 tops, and like they would start midday. Magic competitions, like you got to be up at like 6 in the morning, and you don't leave. You don't really get to leave if you're participating in the whole thing until 7 at night. And then if you're doing well, you come back the next day, same time, and you leave at the same time if you're doing well. So like it's literally like some people do it as their job because they make so much money off of it.
Oh yeah.
But like I've had plenty of experience just being sleep deprived, being up for 36, 48 hours straight playing with cardboard.
Well, so I will certainly say yes, there are some major differences in terms of what gloving and Magic the Gathering have in terms of competition.
Put on some goddamn deodorant if you go to G3, bro. We don't need people smelling like they're at a Magic comp, bro. Put on some deodorant. That's my tip.
Why do you think I have that in my video? That's like my number 5 on the list of the essentials that you should have. Which, if you haven't watched my video yet, go watch it. It's a great video. I did a lot of work on that one.
Brush your teeth, buy a pack of gum, bro. Chew on some gum while you're gloving, bro, because you're gonna be heavy breathing.
Always bring Altoids, people. Trust me, Altoids is your friend.
You can be breathing heavy, bro.
So, granted, like with Magic the Gathering, each round it's like an hour because it's a game. Like it takes that amount of time. Like a single game of Magic can take 20 minutes on average, but I've seen a single game take over 40 minutes, depending on how it works out. The difference is that you're being more physically demanding in a gloving competition. So it's you, in terms of testing endurance, it's like, you guys, I've told you guys what 6120s are, right? Where you're running for 60 seconds and then for the next 120 seconds you walk, and you just interval that for a good amount of time. It helps build up your endurance. That's the kind of idea when it comes to a gloving competition, a live gloving competition to me. And at least from what I've seen in terms of Boss, IGC, 4KC, the live pit battle comps that Folly's been doing around the country, which I really wish there was a lot more curated way for that content so we can watch it, because I haven't been able to watch all of it.
We talked about this before.
I know.
Yeah, it's a tragedy, but it's okay.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see live competitions come back again. I just don't know how prepared a lot of these newcomers are going to be to live competitions, since this is one post IGC, which was a very regular yearly thing, and post COVID. So, you know, that's one of the things that I think is going to be very interesting to see, how people can handle themselves under the pressure, because to me, I think the thing that's going to get to them the most is the amount of people watching. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like they sit in front of the camera and be like, all right, now thousands of people are going to be watching this right as you're doing this in front of the camera. It's like, no, you have thousands, well, not thousands, but you have hundreds of people there watching you intently.
In person. Yep.
Yeah.
And that was, if anything, that would be something that would be kind of a hurdle for me, right? Because all of my experience with this in terms of any form of competition, right, is behind the camera, right? I'm sure I would be okay with doing stuff in person, because I've been to, you know, the Photon Invitational meetup that happened back in February, like gloving to people in person and people walking around watching and stuff. That was fine, you know. But like in a competitive setting, I imagine that the nerves will be high for a lot of these people, especially if it's their first time being in that particular setting.
Well, the other thing as well is they're also going to be consciously aware of is that there are stakes. There's a prize pool, so there are stakes that brings up that level of seriousness for them. It's like, hey, I have to take this seriously because this is what's on the line. I know, to me, it's going to be very interesting to watch, and it's because people are going to have this very unique experience that they never had before, and I think that's what live competitions really offer, as opposed to online competitions, which I would say the standard formatting of an online competition is on a weekly basis. So week in, week out, you are making a video to submit, which sounds really simple and really easy to do on paper. Okay, is the simplest job to do on paper, but I feel like the issue that comes into play for a lot of people, and at least from my experience, was being hypercritical of my videos, to the point that I was constantly having to go to somebody else and be like, all right, here's 8 videos, tell me which one is the best one, because I can't do this.
Yeah, and I mean that's a hurdle that comes with participating in things online, you know, because like when you're in person, you just have to go for it, right? Like you only get the one shot to really go for it. So, you know, the not only does that put some anxiety on certain people, but also that kind of just like that could take away some of the I guess the hyperfixation on like I got to do perfect, because like you just have to do it.
Something else to keep in mind too is, unlike the camera, is you might have a mistake, and it's something I was told in my last round. Travis said, this is the only round that I saw any like a moment of slight hesitation, but then you switched it up and impacted and completely washed it away. So like that's another thing you can do more in person, where on the camera
people can rewind,
you can re-record, you can they can pause it, you have to make sure it's just a different kind of game.
Yeah.
Because in both aspects, people only see what you put down, but you also have a little more leeway in person because they feel the energy too. So if the energy's there, you're good. If the energy's not there,
I was gonna say that because in person, from at least what I understand, is like you can build a narrative in person, and like that can carry you like the whole way, right? Like because there was like this like friendly rivalry that existed between pretty much anyone that stood in Vex's way, right? Like, and he would run with that, and you know that idea alone could literally bring people to victory, which I'm sure, from what I recall, he won once or twice for IGC.
So Vex won
once.
2016, if I remember correctly.
And then he won 4KC.
He also won 4KC. He's won tons of boss competitions in his area. I just can never remember where he's from. I think he's in the Florida area.
Florida.
Yeah. So there are two prime examples for both formats. So when it comes to live competitions, Vex is the person I would watch because he defined what it was to be in a competition live and what was the intent of being in a live comp. When it comes to online comps, Puppet is the person you should be watching because this man not only utilized his skills in videography to make these beautiful, beautiful shows, but he really understood his own language in terms of his show to really create this cinematic event experience for you to watch. So if you really want to like learn from the best of each format, these are the two people I would suggest watching.
I would say Long is like an honorable mention too for online.
If you're an impactor, Corduroy for aim online and in person.
I would agree with that too because Corduroy did a lot of online comps. As an impactor.
He won both.
Yeah, and I mean I've gotten a Corduroy show before, and this man is a mad genius with impacting. You know what I mean? But then again, the one era of impacting I love the most was the first renaissance of gloving during the 2012 to 2014 when Fry really came out, Karma really came out, Corduroy, like a lot of the impactors really came out, and there was like this huge flushing out of an idea that impacting was.
Munch won a boss while switching mid-show from traditional gloving to conjuring and impacting. He flipped his mid-show. He flipped his chips.
I think I saw like a recorded light show.
He's
where
done
he
both.
did that before. Yeah, I've seen. You showed me the show.
Yeah.
Where he literally like, and then swaps them to underneath.
I'll send you the one for that he did during a boss.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, he did it live, dude.
I mean, that's that. Like, I feel like if you do that well enough, where people are not like thinking that like, hey, that looks a little bit like too sus, you know what I mean? Like, if you execute it well in person, like that's a fucking showstopper, dude.
So a way I would put it when it comes to this like bit of advice is don't be afraid to take risks, but just evaluate your situation, and if you feel like you can go for it, go for it. But understand that this is a high risk, but the reward is just as equally as high. You know,
it's a ratio.
I would say
the
like
other thing is as well is to know how to recover if you're starting to falter. That's like a big thing.
I would say high risk, like things that you take higher risks with in person are not as high risk as they would be if you're recording it on a camera. Because like if you take that risk and it fucks up, you got to redo it. Like in person, like your viewer is in a sense less likely to catch a slip up. Like you're always able to like hide some of your mistakes that occur.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't when they can fucking rewind your shit. Like,
well, I think we've talked about it in the episode when we had Joe on about knowing who your judges are. You know what I mean? And understanding like what they look for, not necessarily of their preference, but what their eye catches. is a
Yeah, I
huge...
mean, there's
Go ahead.
there's judge bias. There's always going to be judge bias, and like the word that I would use is actually preference, right? Like, if I'm, for example, if I'm looking at a video and I'm judging it or critiquing it in any way, right? Like, generally the things that my eye gets drawn to is their particular structure, and then their understanding of their move set, right? Like, if someone's doing clusters and it's pretty apparent that they're hesitant and they're still like not sure of what they're doing, right? I'm gonna see that. Anyone's gonna see that. But like, that is something that sticks out to me, because I would rather see someone put like their absolute heart into a light show and it be not nearly as crazy or complex, as opposed to someone who's doing something that's insanely complex, but there's no like soul to it. There's no feeling to it. And like, the way that I analyze things would be different from how anyone else would.
Yeah, well, to me, the way I look at it is like, there's certain things that I will catch that Mckinnley might not have catched, but Mckinnley will catch things that I don't catch. So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily of knowing like your judges in terms of what they like, in terms of their preferences. Like, yes, that's always a good bit of information to have, not necessarily to curate to them, but just knowing what they like to see. But it's more important to understand what their eye catches, because if there's things that I catch that Mckinnley doesn't catch, then the person needs to understand what is it that I see that Mckinnley doesn't see, and vice versa, you know, especially as being judges. Like, when it comes to misclicks and mess ups on mode toggling, I'm going to catch that so easily because my eye is so trained from my own experience as a phaser. You know, that's why I personally, if I was going into a live competition, I would not do phasing. If I do any form of phasing, it'll be like a single shift into the next set, but I would not literally do a 90-second show doing three shifts. You know, I think it would be a little bit too much, and I don't think that would actually constitute to my judges like technical moves, you know, type deal. It's just like, oh no, you're just doing mode changes, and you're using that as part of your show rather than what they want to see, type deal.
Right.
Like, so, for example, from our round one against Scully, something that the judges, which is why Paulie had to be the third judge, because we had a tiebreaker already round one. Because Travis's thoughts were he enjoyed more of the flow aspect that Scully threw down. It was more of a traditional light show. That's how they put it. But then Alex's argument was, but this is something we've never seen before. This is crazy. And then Paulie, his argument was, I agree with that. And it was more like he liked more of the finger style type stuff. And it was just like, he liked that it was innovating and not going back to what we always do. And yeah, so that's something like, you know, people just have their different mindsets of what they think a light show can be, or it should be in their eyes, you know.
They people will put different weights to different aspects of a show, because some people like literally just don't care about flow. Like, as weird as that sounds, there are people that just like don't care, and they're more like, oh cool, you can do crazy shapes, crazy like crazy things with your fingers, and it doesn't necessarily matter that like it wasn't 100% flow oriented, you know.
See,
but
that's why we have techers and flomies. You know, there are people who emphasize on technical aspects more than the flow style, and there's people who do vice versa. You know, that's when you start to learn about individual glovers as judges. What is it that they not necessarily favor, but what they are drawn to more for a show.
Right.
But the other thing as well is like trying to compare two shows together and evaluate it from an objective point of like which show is which. And our classic argument is impacting versus non-impacting. I honestly think a comparison of an impacting show to a conjuring show is a lot easier to do than impacting to non-impacting, or even conjuring to non-conjuring. You know.
Well, because realistically, weirdly enough, the thing that bridges the two together, or rather, conjuring and traditional gloving, is bridged together by impacting. But impacting is so like, it's adopting factors from both, but forming its own thing, from my understanding. Right.
I would even say the way people approach platforming is the same way people approach impacting. Both are just using the props differently.
Right.
Yeah, and you know the funny thing is this brings up this another classic argument is telling two different finger shows, telling the difference between a tutter and a glover. And I honestly think people are missing a big point of the argument. Like, yeah, you can tell like certain mannerisms between their movements between a tutter and a glover. I also don't think people are taking into account framing, because glovers and tutters have two different frames. We use this field over the face as our framing device to do a lot of our movements. So that's why you see it sit in this little, not necessarily a box, but on a miniature stage where our hands are supposed to take the persona of human bodies moving in the space. As a tutter actually uses their body as the framing to the viewer, so the viewer sees everything, and then they do all their stuff. That's why you see them move their bodies, because they're shifting the framing for their viewer to understand where they're going to be working from. And you definitely see different aesthetics take hold from there. You know what I mean? There's a lot more this sharp electric angular movements that tutters pull, as you don't see that as often in a glover. A glover definitely wants to just constantly stream this connection of ideas into a story. You know, yes, you do see this technical application when they're being technical and not applying it, you know, with musicality and flow and all the other aspects that glovers like to use. So it's very interesting to see people understand what it is in terms of visual aesthetics that these styles take hold. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I tell people, when it comes to seeing an impacting to a non-impacting show, you just have to judge each person individually on the style that they're going with. You know, and if you understand what impact, man, this is why I need to make another archetypes of gloving on impacting, so people can really be able to break it down.
You know the difference between like just a light show and an impactful show, but not an impacting show.
Right.
Or, you know, or a light show filled with conjuring, but not a conjuring light show. You know, like they might have an aspect to it, but it might not be the whole show. You know, I feel like that's something else to also really define, because it's like saying, hey, I'm going to give you a tutting light show. It's very specific. Like, oh, you give me a light show with a lot of tutting in it. That's different.
Well, because the way you have to perceive it is like, is it the centerpiece or is it a decoration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, because that's really it. You know, someone like Limit, right? His shows generally are conjuring shows, right? Whereas, you know, whereas if someone is just using conjuring more so to traverse their space, that's more so a decoration in terms of the centerpiece versus decoration type of thing.
Even me, for example, I typically use conjuring for intros, and then I quickly get out of it.
Right.
Because I'm not the best at multi-mode conjuring. I don't center it around conjuring, but I have it in there.
And I need to talk to Limit.
You know?
I honestly feel the one person who made me understand a full conjuring show was Scrappy. I think it was his 2017 video that Trump shared. Yeah.
Oh, that one?
That was probably I commented on that post too. I said, this is the most beautiful demonstration of what conjuring is capable of doing.
People were hating, bro.
I know, that's the thing that upsetted me. I'm like, you guys just don't understand this then, because yes, this is all simple movements, but look how much of an emphasis it changes when you add this subtle change of toggling different lights and adding these different variations. I mean, going from 1 light to 3 lights, freaking brilliant. I love this idea because it shows you this level of dedication and precision to pull this off and make it so clean. He did not have a single misclick through that entire video. That's what I love about it the most, is that it is done
And it was
perfectly.
in person. It was in person comp, right?
No, it was just him
No, the
doing
thing
it
he
to a
didn't know.
camera.
It was just a recording.
Oh,
I
I'm
it
thinking
It
of a
looked
different
like some
video
raw
then.
footage though.
I'm thinking of a different video then, because there was one video I saw of some dude conjuring at a comp at like a boss or something.
It sounds like something a warrior would do.
It wasn't warrior. It was some dude, but like
Merlin maybe.
the song. Wait, what was the song called? It was there was a part in the song where like the lyrics were going like something about dripping. That fucking
Drip,
Adventure Club song.
drip, hold on.
It was dripping in gold or whatever.
I know what song you're talking about. I
Yeah.
don't remember the title,
Yeah.
but yes, I know which one you're talking about now.
But like when at that part where like dripping, right? His set was gold at like happenstance, and he was dripping down at that because that's the build up for this song. And he did like it was everyone was freaking out when he did it, and like something like that because the representation that you can have with conjuring, you know, it does take it to the next level, but it's a completely different art form within what we already do.
Oh yeah. That's where I think we've said it multiple times, like different aspects of different hobbies have kind of culminated within gloving. You got street magic performance in here, you got street dancing performance in here, you also have like different flow arts in terms of poi and orbiting filtering their way in, and understanding like physics, dynamics with movement. I mean, I haven't done a video on it in a good while. I probably should do another continuation of the LeBon's movement analysis and how that integrates not only with just dancing but with acting and street performance, and like psychology even freaking uses this thing. But yeah,
I feel like we're getting a little sidetracked.
I was gonna say we're kind of tangenting off of that point. I would just definitely say something I probably should work on in the future. However, the other thing I would certainly say when it comes to like coming to a live comp versus like an online comp is just definitely have yourself very well prepared. Eat plenty of food before you go in. The last thing you want to be doing going through a competition is getting hungry.
Sleep well.
Drink your water, dog.
Yes, definitely hydrate.
Sleep, yeah.
I'm not saying you have to, but protein bars, even granola bars, would be perfectly fine. Just for something to have in between some of the rounds, because you're gonna burn a lot of calories.
Have a good mental, realistically. Like just go in with a good mindset, and you should be good. From at least how I've perceived online comps or perceived live comps, right? If you go in with a good mental, good vibes, like realistically at the end of the day what you're going for is to just like have a good time, good experience.
Have a game guide, don't have a game plan. And if you have a plan, you're gonna have expectations and you're gonna fail. And if you have guidelines, things set in play, and like, okay, you know how to just, all right, do this to adjust to that, do this to adjust to that.
Yeah, so okay, here's a good thing. One of the things I feel like people should understand between live comps and online comps is understanding the improv of live comps. It's definitely like improv comedy. You are literally thrown obstacles in your way, and you have to immediately adapt and adjust like right there on the spot. And I'm not saying that all the newcomers are not going to be able to do this. It's just something that I will personally say keep that in mind, is that you definitely going to have to adjust accordingly to if you go first or second, which we can spend all day talking about what I would call play versus draw, and I don't want to go into it, but it's literally dictating your game plan based on whether or not you're going first or going second.
Right.
You know?
Because that's the idea that comes with like uh dance battles, right? Like you have a person who has the challenge, the challenger, the first one to go. This is like their way to have some form of an announcement, a challenge to, in some respects, like challenging their integrity, challenging their person. And then the second person has to respond to that. They have to have their rebuttal, their defense, you know
Yeah.
and there's so many different, and that's what builds that narrative, being able to have some form of narrative. I think could help someone overcome that anxiety of like, oh man, do I have to go first or second, right? If anything, I feel like going first is harder.
That's the mindset that happened again. Round one. We had that. We had a little tiebreaker, and I had to decide. And I said, you know what? 8 Mile round one. I'm going first.
Yeah,
And that's when I conjured and I was like, I gotta drop everything.
You see, that's such a crazy strategy too, because like if it works, it's done. Like it's set in stone, because you can just straight up have your opponent speechless.
And if I lose, well, okay, cool. Well, I didn't hold back. So you don't hold back, that's the message.
Yeah.
And by the end of the last round, I used one mode each round. The last round, I had mode change. I did 3 different modes to get to a new mode that I hadn't shown them as a strategy. So you had to come up with stuff on the spot. Like I had to rearrange my set, real quick before I went.
Dang.
You had to think on the spot like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of impromptu-ness to live competitions that I definitely want to not necessarily admonish, but to bring to people's attention. I know somebody like Jess and a lot of the old heads that like I followed since I started will definitely have a lot of these points of saying like it's a test of endurance. You're definitely going to be pushing yourself really hard between each round, even though these rounds are going to be like I don't know, like what 20 minutes per round, because it's like what 90-second demonstration from each side, and then they give them some deliberation to tally up the scores and then set up the new brackets and then move on from there. It's like what, good 20-30 minutes at most, I want to say, as
I think
opposed
there's
to
an actual
hour.
schedule
Yeah.
on the thing. So that would probably give us the exact estimate. But I would think that sounds about right. That's kind of how it was at Domads. In between each round of people that would go, they would go deliberate between 5-10 minutes, depending on how close it was.
Yeah.
And then they can all right, y'all get over here. God damn y'all for being so good. And then,
Yeah,
yeah.
here's the next bracket. We'll give you guys about a couple minutes to gather up and set up, and then do the flight.
In terms of online comps, though, I don't have a lot of experience with them, but I would just say just have fun, right? Like Peter mentioned it earlier, like when you're overly critical, right? You overthink about your takes, and then you stress yourself out. And that's what's going to take away from the quality of what you can do, because you're going to be stressing way too much about what you're doing. And then you're going to hate it, right? That's what will cause burnout. That's what will cause insecurity in your skill and your talent in what you're going to create in order to hopefully move on in your future rounds, right? Like you just gotta at least for me, when I approached recording for shows for like Flowtron and stuff like that, like I did a lot of orchestrating, because that is like a weird example for an online competition because it's team based and online at the same time. But like you just gotta go for it.
In all honesty, I find Flowtron to be such a unique experience. It was extremely stressful. I will tell this to everybody right now. No matter what kind of competition you're going to go into, you're going to stress out. And I'm not going to say that it's like, oh, you have such bad anxiety that you're always going to stress out. It's like, no, you're going to be put yourself through a ringer. And it's because you want things to go well, and there's some things that are just gonna happen. And you're gonna be like, oh, you know. But in terms of like,
test your mindset.
yeah, in terms of
Can
Flowtron,
you handle?
that was hard for me just because I was trying to not necessarily stress everybody else out, but I was trying to keep everybody else calm to be like, all right, we're gonna get this done. Don't worry, you know, we'll get this done. Like, you know, it was. I definitely can agree with you, Dustin. The orchestration and getting everybody in line and getting everybody on the same page and everybody moving at the same pace was extremely difficult.
Luckily for me, I like doing that stuff. So like it was a cakewalk in terms of orchestrating stuff. The thing that would stress me out is if people were not hitting the deadline that I established. And that was pretty much it, right? Like I wouldn't stress myself out with my own like planning and my own like perspective and all the orchestrating I was doing. I would get stressed out if I'm like, okay, I'm missing 2 videos. The shit's due in 3 days. Where are you guys at? Right? Like I laid down the foundation of what we need to do here already. I did the heavy lifting. Like in terms of planning. You guys just need to record a light show. Just
Something that's
record
similar.
like,
Yeah, I would
And-
certainly say for at least for like Team ISO, it was definitely this we got to get together to like come to a consensus because we all have very different styles and different styles of approach to a show. So we wanted to make sure that not only were we trying to connect ourselves with a theme, but we also weren't restricting other people to a point that didn't feel like they can present themselves, essentially.
well, so this is actually something I've talked about with Josh before in terms of putting together something like this, right? Like the way that me and Josh will approach like the project videos that we'll work on, right? It's we have to either make the decision for our cast or we hear out our cast and then work with it, right?
Right.
And at least the way that I approached Flowtron, I established a fairly rigid way that I think that I felt worked best, and then I heard everyone else's opinions out, and then I altered my plan from there, and then we went with that. Like there was no like someone has a suggestion here, someone has a suggestion there, someone wants to do this with theirs, someone wants to do this with that. There was none of that. Like because the moment that happens, you get sidetracked too much. Like in terms of accomplishing like an end goal, because
Right.
it's more important to have an end goal than to make sure that like everyone got to get their say in. Like as bad as that sounds, right? Like with the way Flowtron is as a competition, it's more important to have something that is put well together than to have something that like everyone got to like contribute their piece in. Because you know I was lucky to have members on my Flowtron team that were like cool with just having the ideas laid out for them and then they just worked with that, right? Like and that and ideally that's because that's the same way that like actors are, you know. Actors get paid millions of dollars. They get told what to do. If they have a suggestion, the person can hear them out. They don't have to take them up on it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. I can definitely see that kind of perspective on it. It was, to me, it was just kind of, it was just stressful just making sure you're getting everybody to get it. Because I know, like, ideally, I think some of us were in, like, this, I don't even know how to describe it. We're kind of like in this fever dream where we're like, oh, this should be easy, you know, we'll get our videos recorded the next day. We'll have, like, a couple videos. We'll discuss, like, which one would probably be the best one to submit, and people were not recording until the day of submission, and I'm just like,
That's where my stress came.
ugh.
That's where my stress came.
To compare, so you know how people can be procrastinating in that sense online, even in person. I've been at competitions. It even happened at Nomads, where they're calling for people who signed up, and then they're not there, and we're having a delay and look, and that's just out of consideration. Because in most competitions, they could just, all right, well, you're balled out or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So it just
That's what
depends on
happens
how
in
it
any
is.
competitions,
Yeah.
especially if you pay for it, bro. Like they're not gonna wait for you. As weird as
Yeah.
it sounds, if you pay for your spot, like in G3, you better show up on time.
Mhm.
You better be punctual, because they're not gonna wait for you.
Yeah, punctuality is a big thing. Especially
That
when
could
it comes
be
to
a
live
factor.
comps.
Same if they're like too sauced. If they decided to do that route.
Dude, don't be too sauced, bro. Just be you. Just be you, bro.
Oh yeah, I definitely. There's a mantra, or I don't want to say mantra. There's an expression in the military that still lives true to this day. When it comes to stuff like this, it's all about being at the right place at the right time in the right uniform. In this case, be in your spot with your gloves at the right time to do this comp. You know.
In the right mindset, bro.
Oh yeah.
With the right intentions.
Absolutely.
I would certainly say from like my experience in Magic the Gathering, I don't know if this is actually going to be a factor, but I could see this being a factor. Going up against a very well-known Glover within the community, like going up against a pro player in the Magic community, I can see how some people can feel very daunted by that notion.
And that's literally what happened to Mckinnley. Because it's not necessarily someone that's well known. It's more so like a person that you have a lot of respect for, or has a lot of reputation from your perspective, right? Like,
yeah,
I could tell you, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you, Cody has beaten a handful of well-known Magic players, and it didn't matter because he didn't know who they were. Like, how great is that? Like, he beat one of the best Storm players to ever exist, and he had no idea who he was until we told him after. It's like, yeah, you just beat this guy. He is literally known for playing Storm. Caleb Scherer. He's got his own token made by SCG. And Cody's like, oh, that's cool. I beat him. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, like, if you're somebody like me who has followed a lot of Glovers, like, I just have a mad amounts of respect for these people. So
that's a disadvantage then for you.
True, but to me, it's just my knowledge of these people as well, kind of deal. And at the end of the day, like, that shouldn't matter. The thing that's going to matter, in my opinion, is the conversation you have after competing with them. You know what I mean? And going up against them. It's the same idea when it comes to like going up against a pro player in Magic. You have this opportunity to not necessarily pick somebody's brain, but get like these little anecdotal like pieces of advice, and they always have like words of encouragement for that. Especially in the Magic community, they always have these massive words of encouragement, and I always loved it. So I certainly hope that happens here too.
I don't know, man. It depends. If I recall what happened with that match that I talked about with my brother, that dude literally just grabbed all of his stuff and stormed out. Haha. Pun intended. He literally got up from the table, didn't say a word because he was so pissed. So I mean, everyone's different. Humans are humans, bro.
I can certainly say I think the only person who's ever been vocal about being like that in the Gloving community is Just. I do remember him saying either on GFC roundtable or in his interview with Merc that he was like one of the most jaded Glovers ever in a sore loser. I mean, if I'm misquoting you, Jess, please correct me. I am willing to let you correct me if I'm wrong. So
Nah, just a sore loser, bro. I'm saying it. You're a sore loser, dog. Like, nah, I'm kidding.
But you know what the funny thing is though? I've always taken that idea or that kind of tone from Jess as very comical. Like, yes, he's willing to admit he can feel like that, but at the end of the day, I feel like he still would be a good sport about it, and you know, kind of like get over it and still congratulate the person who won, whatever, and kind of like move on from there. Like, yeah, he'll have his little moment of a fit, but he'll like get over it and be the bigger person. At least that's how I feel. I don't know. Somebody's probably gonna say, "Oh, I have a story to tell you." I don't really care. That's the vibe I get. I'm just saying.
I don't know. People are people, bro. Like human beings are unpredictable.
Yeah.
That's
I
how
mean,
it is.
and even so maybe if they act one way at one point in time, we should say they haven't grown from them. You
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
you just
Is
can't
it-
assume.
Yeah.
Just in the moment.
Yeah.
If you're gloving at G3, just imagine your opponent in their underwear, dog. You're good to go. Just imagine
Yeah,
your
just
opponent.
glove and point
and-
and be like, yeah,
Look at the
yeah,
whitey
yeah.
tighties, the brown
you're
thunders.
naked.
Yeah, bro. That's all you gotta do. All your nerves are gone. Everybody that's watching is in their underwear, bro. Easy.
Yeah, I also really want to stress that no, you're not gonna have thousands of people watching you at once. It's gonna be a couple hundred people. Like, it's a good size number, and I know that some people are still gonna be like a little unnerved by it, but I wouldn't let that deter you. You know what I mean? You're there to have fun at the end of the day, and so is your opponent. I mean, so just if you feel like you are just like, oh, I know I'm not gonna win, at least make it difficult for your opponent to win. I mean, at least that's what I like to do. Oh, I'm playing Magic the Gathering. My deck's not going to beat this deck, but at least I can make it a miserable play experience for them before I lose.
McKinley, got any final words of advice for online and in-person competitors?
My final words of advice would be, if you really want to win a competition, you have to come in with a plan. You have to think you're the best. But no matter how far you go, as long as you don't hold back, you have nothing to regret. And you just know you can do better next time. I'm like, all right, because there's always going to be bigger fish. But you have to approach it like that every time. Don't hold back at all.
There's gonna be bigger fish. Just catch the biggest one, bro.
Yeah.
As
Shit. I'm not the best fisherman like I thought I was this time. But, always think that you're the best you can be, so you perform at your best.
So a quote that I've adapted from a Magic content creator known as the Professor. He said, "It's not about winning or losing. It's about becoming a better glover, win or lose." Now, granted, he says that becoming a better player, win or lose, but it applies here too, especially with live competitions, because this is the thing I always feel like you miss out on online comps, is that social interaction with your opponent discussing your match.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much you can learn from just talking to your opponent and what they saw from their perspective, and the lines of play you're able to learn from your opponent in that regard. That, to me, I'm hoping that a lot of newcomers who watch this episode take that chance and just talk to your opponent after the match, and wait until your next round comes up, because you're going to learn so much from your opponent than you are going from your judges, because who's watching your show on the first hand account? Your opponent. So learn from their perspective as well as the judges.
I would say just have fun, bro. Have fun. Give it your all. Unless you don't want to. Like, that's up to you. Just have fun. As long as, like McKinley said, you don't have any regrets at the end of the day. Like, that's all that matters. Drink your water and wear deodorant. Like that. That's
Wash your ass.
Wash your ass. Wear deodorant. Chew some gum, bro. You're good to go. Get him, Tiger.
Yeah, it's. I will certainly say this is one of the things I'm just really excited about, is just having live competitions and having live interactions again. We need it.
I wish I could go. I'm missing out. But it's all good. Yeah, well, I wish all the competitors for all the different competitions going on best of luck. Yeah, bye, McKinley. You had to go.
Yes, unfortunately, McKinley had to go. He has to get to work, so we're letting him go. But to pretty much round this off, I know we kind of like went on tangents and stuff, but I feel like we did a pretty good job on like off the cuff anecdotal experience stuff, because not only did we have ours from online comps, but McKinley has his from live comps. And I will certainly say after G3, you guys are going to see a lot of interesting content from me. because I'm gonna have hundreds of footage, hundreds of hours of footage to spew out. Hoping to get plenty of interviews, all that stuff. There's a lot of work. I'm already trying to order my lavalier mics to walk around for interviews.
You better get them soon, bro.
Oh yeah. I'm going to try to get those express orders so they're here before I leave. And I also got to write down my packing list for this as well to make sure I have everything, because I know I'm going to need a lot. Just for everybody else, you guys know where to find us. All of our social media stuff's down in the description. It'll all be there. You guys know how to hit us up. And hopefully, to everybody who is going to G3, you'll definitely see me and Mckinnley there. Unfortunately, Dustin, I don't think Josh is going. I don't know. I never heard anything from him.
No, Josh isn't either.
Oh, okay. So Josh's not going. As
much as I would love. To Moonrise. We're going to Moonrise, literally. When you guys watch this episode, we're going to Moonrise like the upcoming weekend. So G3 kind of out of the plans for that. Also for other reasons.
Other than that, like I said to everybody, check your stuff, make sure you have everything packed, and check our social media stuff down below. Do all that stuff, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll definitely catch you guys in the next one after also, G3.
Inky Boy's hype. Boy's hype.
Yeah, Boy's hype. I'm so excited to see that. So
yeah, keep up with the coverage. It's gonna be popping.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see the coverage.
Inky Boys at Glow LEDs.
Yeah, you'll see it right down there in the description below. Go check it out. Other than that, I'll definitely catch you guys after G3. Bye.
Goodbye.